And the first question says, Anvi buys a new car. The price of the car is $28,240. She's given a 7.5% discount, which means the price is reducing by 7.5%. Calculate the amount she pays. So if she's getting a 7.5% reduction, that means what she's paying right now is 92.5% of the price. So we just find 92.5% of the price, and that gives us $26,122. Alternative method is that you find 7.5% of the original price, and then you deduct that from the original price. So if you find 7.5% of 28,240, that is $2,118. So new price would be 28,240 minus 2,118, and that gives us the same price, 26,122. So both of the methods are correct. You choose the one that suits you best and is, less time consuming. Then it says the fuel tank in the new car has a capacity of 45 liters. This is 72% of the capacity of the fuel tank in her old car. Calculate the capacity of the fuel tank in her old car. So if the fuel tank in her new car has a capacity of 45 liters, which is 72% of the fuel tank in her old car. So 45 is equal to 72% of X. X being the capacity of the fuel tank in the old car. So that means 45 equals to 72 over 100 multiplied by X. And to find X, we do 45 times 100 divided by 72. And that gives us 62.5 liters. That is the capacity of the fuel tank in her old car. And it says Adi buys a new car costing $28,000. He pays for the car using a finance plan. The finance plan is a deposit, 47 equal monthly payments of $330, and a final payment of $11,490. Using this finance plan, Adi pays a total of $31,900 for the car. Calculate the deposit paid as a percentage of $28,000. So he's paying a total of $31,900. And this includes a deposit. So since it's the deposit that we're trying to find, so that is going to be X again. So X plus 47 equal monthly payments of $330. So which means we're going to do 47 times 330, because $330 is the monthly payment for 1 month. So for 47 months, you times it by 47, and then the final payment of $11,490. That gives us X plus 27,000. And then we subtract 27,000 from 31,900 to find the deposit amount. That's $4,900. That is the deposit that we're paying. So now they're asking us to calculate the deposit paid as a percentage of 28,000. So percentage deposit is going to be 4,900 divided by 28,000 times 100. So 4,900 divided by 28,000, then times by 100 is 17.5%. That is your answer. Then a car travels 64 kilometers and uses 2.5 liters of fuel. It then travels 128 kilometers uses 6 liters of fuel. Calculate the rate at which the car uses fuel during the whole journey, giving your answers in liters per 100 kilometers. So when it's traveling for 64 kilometers, it's using 2.5 liters of fuel. And then for 128 kilometers, it uses 6 liters of fuel. We have to calculate the rate at which the car uses fuel during the whole journey. Since it's liters per 100 kilometers, that means we're going to divide the total number of liters by the total distance. Total number of liters is 2.5 plus 6, and total distance is 64 plus 128. So 2.5 plus 6, which is 8.5, and then we divide that by the sum of 64 and 128, which is 192. So that gives us 0.0427 liters per kilometer. Now, they want the answer for liters per 100 kilometers. So for that, we times this by 100. So that is going to give us 4.43 liters per 100 kilometers. That's your answer. If you're still confused about it, look at the question. It says calculate the rate at which the car uses fuel during the whole journey, giving your answers in liters per 100 kilometers. So liters per something or anything per something means that you're dividing. So liters is in the numerator and the distance is in the denominator. So since it's for the entire journey, we're going to add the total fuel used and the total distance covered, divide the two. And since for per 100 kilometers, not for per kilometer, so we have to times the entire value that we get after the division by 100 to get the final answer. Because the 0.04427 is for liters per kilometer, not for per 100 kilometers. Then it says at the start of 2021, the value for car was 46,500. At the end of 2021, the value of the car was 20% less. At the end of 2022, the value of the car was 15% less than its value at the end of 2021. Calculate the value of the car at the end of 2022. So for this, let's first start with 2021. So end of 2021. So we will do the initial cost, which is 46,500, times that by the value is decreasing by 20%, which means it's 80%. So 80%, and the time period is going to be 1 because it's for 1 year. So 46,500 times 80 divided by 100, that is $37,200. This is the value at the end of 2021. Now, end of 2022. Now this value, because this is the initial value for 2022, the start. So this value is now being reduced by 15%. So that means we're paying 85%. And time is still 1 year. So 37,200 times 85 divided by 100, that is $31,620. So this is the value of the car at the end of 2022. Question 2 says the table shows some values for y equals to x cubed for 4x plus 4x squared minus 4. So they've given us the values of x and they want us to find the missing values of y. So what you will do is that you will substitute x equals to -4 in the equation and find the value of y. So y equals to -4 whole cube plus 4 times -4 squared minus 4. That's going to give us -4. And for the other one, we'll substitute -1. So y equals to -1 cube plus 4 times -1 squared minus 4. And that's going to give us -1. So this is the complete table. In the next part, they want us to draw the graph of this equation using the values in the table. So let's start with that. The first point is -4.5 and -14.1. So -4.5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And -14.1. This is 11. This is 12. This is 13. This is 14. So like somewhere around here. This is the point. Then we have -4 and -4. This is -4. That's that. Then -3 and 5. That's that. -2 and 4. -1 and -1. 0, -4. 1, 1. And 1.5 at 8.4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8.4. This is 9. This is 8. Put it over here. Let's remove these extra points. Okay. So now we connect these points and we can easily see that we have a cubic graph. That's a complete graph. And this is draw the tangent to the graph at the point 1, 1, and then use your tangent to estimate the gradient of the curve at the point 1, 1. So 0.11, that is this one. So we draw a tangent over here. This is the tangent that I'm getting. So now we estimate the gradient of this graph. So for the gradient, I'm going to pick 2 points. If I pick this one and let's say this one. So this is negative 4.5 and 2, 3, 4, 0.4. 0.4 and negative 4.5. And for this one, it's at 4. And over here, it's at 1.1, 2, 3, 1.4. 1.4 and 4. So now if you find the gradient using these points, let me just write these down separately over here. 1.4 and 4, 0.4 and negative 4.5. M equals to 4 minus negative 4.5 divided by 1.4 minus 0.4. And that gives us 8.5, which is also within the range given because the range for the gradient is between 6 to 14. So if your value is coming between that range, your line is correct and your gradient is also correct. Then says by drawing a suitable straight line on the grid, solve the equation x cubed plus 4x squared minus x minus 6. So if we look at the original equation, we have y equals to x cubed plus 4x squared minus 4. So if we compare them, we can see that there's an extra negative x over here, and to the negative 4, there's a negative 2 being added to it. So that means we have to draw a line at y equals to x plus 2. Y equals to x plus 2, this is the line that we'll draw, because the new equation is y equals to x cubed plus 4x squared minus x minus 6. Compare these, you can see that the extra is the negative x part and there's a negative 2 over here. So move it to the other side, it's x plus 2. So x plus 2 is a line that is intersecting basically this cubic curve. So now, if we remove all of this, so for the y equals to x plus 2, if we put x equals to 0, y is 2, and if we put y equals to 0, x is negative 2. So we have two coordinates, 0, 2. This is 1, this is 2. So first point, 0, 2, and then 0, negative 2. That is this one. So now we draw a straight line that passes through these 2 points, and this is intersecting the graph at 3 points. So first is this, then it's this, and then it's this. So approximately for the first one, we're getting negative 3.9. This is the first value. And the next one, I'm getting negative. This was 1, so 1, 2, 1.29. Along that, negative 1.29. Let me rewrite this. And for the third one, we're getting negative, what's it called? negative 1 point, positive 1.12 or like 1, something like that. And all of these fall within the range that has been provided, so it's correct. So as long as your values are within the given range. And also since these are estimates, so like you can't get like a fixed value. So that's the answer. Then it says simplify 3m minus 5n minus 4m plus 8n. So you combine the like terms, 3m and 4m are like terms. So 3m minus 4m. Then negative 5n gets combined with positive 8n. So that's negative m plus 3n. Then it's one of the rules of indices when you have a power outside the bracket and inside the bracket, you distribute the power on all of the terms. So what I mean by that is it becomes 3 to the power 4 times a square whole power 4 and then times c cube whole power 4. So 3 to the power 4 is 81. This becomes a to the power of 8. You multiply the powers and c to the power of 12. So that's 81, a to the power of 8, c to the power of 12. Then the third part, it says 4x over 5 minus 3x over 10 plus 2x over 15. So remember, whenever we are adding or subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, we're supposed to make the denominators same. I'm going to multiply the first fraction by 6, the second fraction by 3, and the third fraction by 2. Why? Because 5, 10, and 15 share a lowest common multiple of 30. 30 comes in the 5 times table, 10 times table, and the 15 times table. So just make the denominator 30. So that's going to give us 30, and over here, 24x, then 9x over 30, and 4x over 30. Whichever method you prefer, like in making the denominators equal, you can use that. You could have even multiplied like all of them by like, you could have chosen any other multiple as well, but since 30 is the lowest common multiple, so keep it simple and just make the denominators equal to 30. So now we can combine the numerator and write it as a joint fraction. So 24x plus 4x is 28. 28 minus 9 is 19. So 19x over 30. That is your final answer. Then it says this isosceles triangle has a perimeter of 35.5 centimeters. Find the value of A. So the perimeter means that we're adding the lengths, like we're trying to find the total length of the boundary of the shape. So if it's an isosceles, that means these two lengths are equal, which is also indicated by these two lines drawn, that like they're the same lengths. So we'll do 3a plus 2 times by 2 because we're adding them, plus a, and this equals to 35.5. So that's 6a plus 4. Expand the bracket, multiply the term outside the bracket with the terms inside the bracket. 6a plus a is 7a. Take the 4 to the other side to isolate the variable. So that's 31.5. So a equals to 31.5 divided by 7. And that is going to give us 4.5. That's your answer. Then part C says using the quadratic formula, solve 5x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals to 0. Quadratic formula is negative b plus minus root of b square minus 4ac over 2a. A is your coefficient of x squared, b is your coefficient of x, and c is your value of the constant. So a is 5 for this one, b is -4, and c is -3. So that's going to be -4 plus minus root of -4 squared minus 4 times 5 times -3 over 2 times 5. So that's 4 plus minus 16 plus 60 divided by 10. So that's 76. Then we take the square root of 76, that's 8.7. 4 plus minus 8.718 over 10. So one value is 4 plus 8.718 over 10. That gives us 1.27, and the other is 4 minus 8.718 over 10. -0.47. So these are your values of x. Then it says solve these simultaneous equations. You must show all your working. So we have a quadratic equation and a linear equation. So to make it easier for this, we're going to use the substitution method, where we're going to substitute the second equation in the first one. So sub equation 2 in equation 1. So that means it's going to be 2x minus 3 equals to x squared minus 4x plus 5. It's easier to substitute the linear variable rather than the quadratic one. If we're trying to substitute, like, x, so if we make x the subject, in the second equation, it's going to be a fraction. Then we substitute the fraction in the quadratic equation. And it's going to be like super complicated. So you don't need to make things difficult for you. Just make it easier. So now we bring everything on one side. So x squared minus 4x minus 2x plus 5 plus 3. That's going to give us x squared minus 6x plus 8. Now to factorize this, you can use the quadratic formula. You can use completing square. You can use splitting the middle term, whichever way you're comfortable with, and like it would take less time. I'm going to use splitting the middle term. So for splitting the middle term, we multiply the coefficient of x squared with a constant. So in our case, that's 8 times 1, and that gives us 8. Next step is to find factors of that product. So that product in our case is 8. So factors of 8 are 4 and 10, apart from 8 and 1. Once we have listed down the factors, then we choose that set of factors which, when added or subtracted, give the middle term, which is 6 over here. So we know 4 plus 2 is 6. So that means we're going to go with 4 and 2. So now the factors that you've chosen, what you do is you rewrite the equation, and the middle term is now replaced by those factors. So negative 6x becomes negative 4x minus 2x. And x squared and 8 come as it is. Nothing happens to them. So basically, you're just rewriting the middle term into other numbers, but when you recombine it, it's going to be the exact same thing as the original equation. But the reason why we're splitting it is because we need to factorize this equation. And this is the only way we can factor it, because once we've split it, now we have 4 terms. And these 4 terms can be factored by grouping, which is basically the next step. So we turn the first 2 terms into one group and the last 2 into another group. And now we factor these separately. So in the first two term, we have x common. So x minus 4 comes inside the bracket. And the last two terms, we have negative 2 common. So again, x minus 4 comes inside the bracket. Now this step is very important because if you choose the wrong factors, like sometimes 2, 3 sets of factors give the middle term. So you have to pick that set of factors, which when you use for like the next step, which is factor by grouping, you should get the same terms inside the bracket once you've taken the highest common factor common from those two groups. If you're not getting the same terms inside the bracket, that means you cannot fully factorize the equation. That's where it ends. But they always want the full factorization because without the full factorization, you cannot get the answers to x and y or whatever the variables are. So always make sure that you're choosing the right factors, and the right factors will give you the same terms inside the bracket. So that is your indication if you're doing it correctly or not. So now we can see that between x and negative 2, we have x minus 4 common. So we take x minus 4 common, and inside the bracket, we're left with x minus 2. Split the brackets into two equations. X minus 4 equals to 0, x minus 2 equals to 0. Now, why do they equal to 0? It's because if the product of two brackets is giving you 0, that means either of those brackets are equal to 0. We don't know which one it is. Both of them can be 0, one of them can be 0. So that's why, keeping that logic in mind, we put both the brackets equal to 0 and find the values of x, which are 4 and 2. So x is 4 and 2. Now we need to find the corresponding y values. So for the corresponding y values, I'm going to choose the second equation because once again, we need to choose the easier equation. We don't need to make it difficult for ourselves. So y equals to 2x minus 3. Put x equals to 2. And that gives us y equals to 2 times 2 minus 3, which is 1. And then we put x equals to 4. That gives us y equals to 2 times 4 minus 3, and that's 5. So when x equals to 2, y is 5. When x equals to 4, y is 5. So when x equals to 2, y is 1. When x equals to 4, y is 5. These are your values. Then question 4 says that the angles of a quadrilateral are w, x, y, and z. The ratio of w is to x plus y plus z is 3 is to 5. Find the value of w. So in a quadrilateral, the sum of angles always equals to 360. So if we try to find the value of w first, w equals to 3 over 3 plus 5 times 360. So that's 3/8 of 360 equals to w, and that's going to give us 135. That's your answer. Save time by directly finding w. You don't need to find the value of x plus y, z, or separately x, y, and z to reach the value of w. Just directly create the fraction from the ratio given, 3 over 8, and then we find 3/8 of 360 because sum of angles of a quadrilateral is 360. So 3/8 of that 360 is going to give us the value of w, and that's 135. Then it says A, B, C, and D are points on a circle. PQ is a tangent to the circle at A. B, M, and D is a straight line. Angle ACD is given as 49 and AMB is given as 105. Angle PAB is 45 degrees. Find angle BAM. So this is the triangle and this is the angle they're asking us to find. So we know that PQ is a tangent and we can see that this would be 49. Why? Because if I highlight this, AD is a chord, and from that chord, we have two triangles coming out, or two angles, and these angles are on the circumference, angle C and angle B. If I make this over here. So like, angles in the same chord are equal. So that's why this is 49. And BAM is basically the difference of 180 and these two angles, because sum of angles in a triangle is 180. So BAM would equal to 180 minus 105 minus 49. That gives us 26 degrees. Once again, angles in the same chord are equal. That's why angle B over here and angle C are equal to 49. And we have two angles in this triangle. I need to find the third one. So we subtract these two from 180 to get the third one, because angles in a triangle add up to 180. Then it says find angle BAD. BAD, now if we highlight this, so 49, 26, and this would be 45. Why would this be 45? Because alternate segment theorem. So whatever angle is over here, that's going to come over here. Whatever angle is over here, that's going to come over here. And this would be the same because it's a straight line, and sum of angles on a straight line is also 180. So this is 45, so we can find this angle by doing 180 minus 45 minus 49. That gives us 86 degrees. That is your value of BAD. Then it says give a geometrical reason why BD is not the diameter of the circle. So for BD to be the diameter of the circle, BAD was supposed to be 90 degrees, because angles coming out of semicircle equal to 90. So because BAD was not equal to 90 degrees. That is your reason. A, B, C, and D are points on a circle center O. TA and TC are tangents to the circle. OA equals to 6.75. OT equals to 11.5. Show that the angle AOC is 108.12. So firstly, this and this are equal because it's coming out of the center going towards the circumference, which means OA and OC are the radius. Let's establish that first. Now, the tangent makes a 90-degree angle with the radius, and that has been already identified in the shape. They told us that this is 6.75. This is also 6.75. OT is 11.5. So if I make this triangle separately over here, this is A, this is O, and this is T. This is 6.75, and this is 11.5. We have to show that AOC, so basically this angle, is equal to 108.12. So if I find this angle over here and times that by 2, that gives us the total angle. Why would I times that by 2? Because both the triangles are identical. So if we find this value, add that to itself or times it by 2, that gives us the total AOC angle. So now coming back to this, we can find angle O over here using SOHCAHTOA. And from SOHCAHTOA, we can use cosine. Why? Because we have the adjacent, the line on which the angle lies, and we have the hypotenuse, which is the diagonal. So cos of angle for this, it's going to be AOT equals to adjacent 6.75 divided by hypotenuse 11.5. Then we take the inverse of this fraction, and that is going to give us a value of 54.06 degrees. Now, to get the value of AOC, we times this by 2, and that gives us 108.12 degrees, correct to 2 decimal places, and the same as what's given in the question. So that's your answer. Let's just calculate the length of the minor arc ABC. Minor arc ABC is basically this thing. So we already found the angle over here. That's 108.12. We know the radius, 6.75. So we just need to use the formula for the length of arc and directly find the answer. So for this, it's going to be 108.12 divided by 360 times 2 times pi times the radius, which is 6.75. And that is going to give us 12.73 centimeters, correct to 2 decimal places. Then it says calculate the area of the major sector OCDA. So area of the major sector now, which is this one, we need to find this angle first. So to find this angle, we can subtract AOC from 360, and that gives us the remaining angle. Radius is going to be exactly the same, but what changes is the angle and the formula, because obviously we're finding the area now. So the angle is 360 minus 108.12, and that gives us 251.88 degrees. Area would be 251.88 over 360 times pi times 6.75 squared, and that gives us 100.15 centimeters square. That's your area. Then says the cumulative frequency diagram shows information about the distance traveled by each of 80 motors in a month. Use the cumulative frequency diagram to find an estimate for the median and interquartile range. Okay, so for the median, total distance is 24. Total frequency is 80, so half of 80 is 40. So we draw a line from 40 towards the graph and then towards the x-axis. And what we're getting is 13, 14, no wait. What's the scale? 10 between 400. So 400 divided by 10. So each small square represents 40. This is 40. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 40, that's 240. 1240, 1280, 1320, 1360, 1400, 1420, 1440, sorry, 1480. So that's 1480. That's your median value. Then for the interquartile range, we need the upper quartile and lower quartile. So upper quartile is 3/4 of 80. That's going to give us 60. So we draw a line from 60 towards the graph, find the value, and for the lower quartile, we find 1/4 of 80, which is 20. So again, draw a line. So this is 1160 and this is 1600. So for the interquartile range, we're going to do 1600 minus 1160. That gives us 440. 440 kilometers is your interquartile range. And since one of these motorists is picked at random, find the probability that this motorist travels more than 1800 kilometers. More than 1800 is going to be 16, 40, 80, 17, 20, 60, 1800. Okay, now over here, this is 20, 25 by 10 is 2. So this is 62, 64, 66, 68, 70, 72. So we're going to do 80 minus 72 divided by 80. That means it's 80 minus 72 over 80. Since it's more than, so we subtract the top part. So 72 is the highest value, like the value for 1800. And more than that is 80. So 80 minus 72 over 80, that's 8 over 80, which can be simplified to 1 over 10 as well. So either way, it's correct. And since the distance around a racing track is 5.104 kilometers, the time taken by a car to complete one lap of the track is 1 minute 18 seconds. Calculate the average speed of the car in kilometers per hour. So we convert this into hours. So we know 1 hour is 60 minutes. 1 minute is 60 seconds. So first we convert the seconds into minutes. So that's going to be 18 over 60. So that's going to be 18 over 60. That gives us 3 over 10. And then this is minutes. So then 1 plus 3 over 10, that's 13 over 10. That is our time in minutes. Now we convert this in hours. So time in hours is going to be 13 over 10 divided by 60, which is 13 over 600. So average speed is going to be 5.104 divided by 13 over 600. And that's going to give us 235.56, which can be rounded to 235.6 kilometers per hour. That's your answer. Remember to first convert the time and then divide the distance by time to find the speed. Convert the seconds into minutes, then add them up, then convert the minutes into hours, and then the speed will be in kilometers per hour. Then since the top speed v kilometers per hour of each of 160 cars is recorded, the histogram shows this information. Show that there are 8 cars with the top speed in the interval 120 to 160. 120 to 160 is going to start from here, and this is the 120 to 160 part. Show that there are 8 cars with the top speed in this. So frequency density was given as 0.5 divided by 10 is going to give us 0.05. So that is what each small division shows. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That means this is 0.2. So now class interval is 160 minus 120, which is 40. So frequency is frequency density times class width. Frequency density is 0.2, class width is 40. Multiply the two, and we have 8 cars. That is what they were asking us to prove. Then calculate an estimate of the mean top speed. You must show all your working. So for the mean top speed, this is 0.2. This is going to be 10.1. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1.8. Then this one is 1.6. And this is 0.5. Okay, so now to find an estimate of the mean top speed, need the midpoints of each of these intervals. So for 120 to 160, this is the midpoint. Then from 160 to 180, so let me write down the midpoints, which are the x values. So it's 140, 170, and this is 40, so this 10, 4, 84, 88, 92, 90, 96, and 200. This would be 190, then 220, then between 240 to 300, we have a midpoint of 270. These are the midpoints. Now, we need to find the frequency values. So for the frequency values, for the first one, it was 8. For the second one, it's 1.1, not 10.1. 20 times 1.1. This is 22. This is again 20. So 20 times 1.8, that's 36. Then over here it's 200 to 240, so that's 40. 40 times 1.6, that's 64. And for the last one, 240 to 300, so that's 60. 60 times 0.5, that's 30. So these are the frequency values for each of these. So if I write this down over here separately, frequency density equals to frequency over class width. So we're trying to find the frequency. So first frequency is going to be 0.2 times 40. That's 8. Second frequency is going to be 1.1 times 20. That's 22. Third frequency is 1.8 times 20, which is again 36. And then we have 1.6 times 40, and that gives us 64. And for the last one, we have 60 times 0.5, and that's 30. So these are the frequencies. So now for the mean value, that's sigma fx over sigma f. X values are these, f values are these. So make a separate column for f. That's 8, 22, 36, 64, and 30. So we're going to do 8 times 140 plus 22 times 170 plus 36 times 190 plus 64 times 220 and then plus 30 times 270. And all of this is divided by the total frequency, which is 8 plus 22 plus 36 plus 64 plus 30. That gives us 211.75 kilometers per hour as your estimate of the mean top speed. So, like, this question was like quite simple, like not very difficult, like a bit lengthy, yes, of course. Like, they've given the entire frequency density, they just want you to figure out the class width from it, firstly, based on the scale of the graph, like the axis. Then they want you to figure out the x values, which are the midpoints of each class interval. Then using the frequency density and class width, they want you to figure out the frequency values for each of those blocks, and then use those to find the mean value, which is sigma fx over sigma f. Sigma f is the total frequency. Sigma fx is the sum of the product of the frequency and x value for each block. Question 6 says work out 2 times 3 negative 5 minus 2 times negative 7. So simple multiplication first for the vector and then subtraction. So 6 minus 10 minus 2 negative 7. That gives us 4 and negative 3. That is your answer. Then says vector mn is negative 6, 4. M is the point 2, negative 5. Find the coordinates of n. So mn basically means on minus om. So we have negative 6, 4 over here. This is what we're trying to find, and this is 2, negative 5. So on is going to be negative 6, 4 plus 2, negative 5, which is going to be negative 4 and negative 1. These are your coordinates of n. Then it says find the magnitude of mn. So that's going to be negative 6 squared plus 4 squared square root, which is 36 plus 16, 52, and that gives us 7.21. That's a magnitude of mn. In part C, it says OACB is a trapezium with OB equals to 2AC. O is given as A, OB is 2C, AP is to PB is 4:1, and AQ equals to 4/5 of AC. Write each of the following in terms of A and C, giving each answer in simplest form. So OA is A, OB is 2C, and OB is twice of AC. So if OB is 2C, and that's twice of AC, that means C equals to AC. Let's establish that first. So this is C. Now, AQ is 4/5 of AC. So if we rewrite this, let me just 4/5 of C, and this is 1/5 of C. AQ is 4/5 of C, and QC is 1/5 of C. Okay, we got that covered. So first we're asking AB. So AB is going to be AO plus OB. That is our AB. And AO is opposite of OA. So negative. Direction changes, so the sign changes. Plus OB, so that's 2C. So negative A plus 2C. And it says find CB. So for CB, we can say that we can do CA plus AO plus OB. CA plus AO plus OB. That is the root we can take. So CA is AC is C, so CA is negative C. AO would be negative A, and OB is 2C. So that's C minus A. Then we need to find OP and QP. So for OP, this is what they're asking us to find. Now we know that AB was negative A plus 2C. So AB is negative A plus 2C. So P lies on AB. So AP would be 4/5 of AC. So that's 4/5 times negative A plus 2C. And PB is going to be 1/4 of negative A plus 2C. Okay. So they're asking us for OP. So for OP, we can do OA plus AP. So OP is OA plus AP. So OA is A, and AP is 4/5 times negative A plus 2C. So that's 5A minus 4A plus 8C over 5. Simplifies to A plus 8C over 5. This is OP. Then for QP, we can do QA plus AP. QA was 4/5 of AC. Sorry, AQ was 4/5 of AC. So QA would be negative 4/5 of AC, and AC was C. And AP is 4/5 of AB. So that's negative A plus 2C. So that's negative 4C plus 8C minus 4A over 5. So negative 4A plus 4C over 5 is our QP. Then it says use your answers to make two statements about the relationship between the lines QP and CB. So going back to QP and CB. So CB was C minus A, and QP is 4/5 of A minus C minus A. So that shows that they're parallel. QP and CB are parallel because QP equals to 4/5 of CB. CB was C minus A, and QP is 4/5 of C minus A. So it's being enlarged by a scale factor of 4/5. So QP is 4/5 of CB. That's the relationship, and they're parallel to each other. Question 7 says the diagram shows a field ABCD with B north of A. BD is the path across the field. AB is 85 meters, AD is 72 meters, BD is 129 meters. Angle BDC is 39 degrees and angle BCD is 60 degrees. Show that the angle CBD is 81. You have to find this angle. So we can easily find this angle by subtracting 60 and 39 from 180 because sum of angles in a triangle equal to 180. So CBD equals to 180 minus 60 minus 39, and that gives us 81 degrees, which is what they're asking us to show. And just calculate CD. Highlighting the triangle over here. That's 81. So we can easily find CD using sine rule because we have one complete set of angle and length, and they're asking us to find a missing length. So for this, we'll use sine rule, where we'll put, what's it called, 129 over sine 60 equal to CD over sine of 81. So 129 times sine of 81 divided by sine 60. This will give us the value of CD, and that will be 147.12 meters. That is your value of CD. Then says show that angle ABD is equal to 31.6 degrees, correct to one decimal place. So angle ABD, this angle, this has to be equal to 31.6 degrees. Okay. We know this is 81. We know this is now 147.1 meters. So to find this angle B, if we highlight this triangle, we can clearly see that we have all three lengths. And whenever in a non-right angle triangle, we have all three lengths and they want us to find an angle, that means we can use the cosine rule because the sine rule cannot be used without an angle. But for the cosine rule, we can find a missing angle if all three lengths are given. So the formula we're going to use over here is cos of B equals to, because angle B is what we're trying to find, it's going to be 85 squared plus 129 squared minus 72 squared, and this will be divided by 2 times 85 times 129. Give us 0.85189. And then we take the inverse of this value. That's 31.6 degrees, which is exactly what they wanted us to prove. Then it says find the shortest distance from A to BD. This one. So we just found this angle, which was 31.6 degrees. So shortest distance is always the perpendicular distance from point to the base. So using this angle and these two lengths, we can find the area of this triangle, this non-right angle triangle. And the formula we use is 1 over 2 AB, length of A, length of B times sine of angle C. So for this formula to be applicable, we need two lengths and the angle between them. So that's 129, that's 85, and then times sine of 31.6. So when we solve that, that gives us 2,872.75. meter square. Now this area formula, now using the area formula for a right angle triangle, 1/2 base into height, like the normal basic formula, we plug in the area value. Base is 129, and the perpendicular height for that is h, this one. So this 2,872.75 times 2, 5,745.5 equals to 129 times h. Divide this by 129 and we get 44.54 meters as the height. That is the shortest distance from A to BD. Then it says find the bearing of B from C. Find the bearing of B from C, so all of this. So what we can do is we can easily find this angle. This was 81, this was 31.6. So this angle would be 180 minus 81 minus 31.6, and that equals 67.4, which means this small angle over here, this is 7.4. Why? Because if you notice, these are two parallel lines, and in parallel lines, alternate angles are equal. So whatever this angle is also that. So this total angle is 67.4. So to find the bearing, we will do 180 plus 67.4, which is 247.4 degrees. That is your bearing of B from C. Remember that the bearing is always measured from like in clockwise direction from the north of the point from which you're taking the bearing. Then it says trees are planted in the field. The number of trees planted is 1,100 per hectare. Calculate the total number of trees planted in the field. So the total field ABCD. Okay, so we need the area of this part as well. So to find the area of this part, we can find one of the missing lines, let's say BC. So we know this was 81, and we actually found CD, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, we did find CD. CD was 147.1. So we can easily use these two lengths and the angle between them to find the area of BCD. That's going to be 1/2 times 129 times 147.1 times sine of 39. That's going to give us 5,970.96 meters square. So we can use this value, add that to the other value. Area of ABD that we calculated was 2,872.75 meters square. So total area is going to be the sum of these two. That gives us 8,843.71 meters square. Now in hectares, that's going to be this divided by 10,000, because 1 hectare equals to 10,000 meters square. 0.88437 hectares. Now, for the trees, we multiply this by 1100 because the number of trees planted per hectare is 1100. So for these many hectares, we have to time these by 1100 to find the total number of trees planted over here. And that's 972.8, which rounds up to 973. That is your total number of trees. Then a rectangle has an area of 9400 centimeters square, correct to the nearest 100 centimeters square. The length of the rectangle is 80 centimeters, correct to the nearest 10 centimeters. Calculate the upper bound of the width of the rectangle. So area has the formula of length times width. You want to find the width, so width would be area divided by the length. So since it's division, I'm trying to find the upper bound. That means area would be upper bound and length would be lower bound. If they're asking for the lower bound in division, then the numerator is lower bound and denominator is upper bound. Keeping that in mind, now for the upper bound of area is 94 centimeters square, correct to the nearest 100 centimeters square. This is your degree of accuracy. So what we do is we divide the degree of accuracy by 2. So for the area part, we're going to do 100 divided by 2. That's 50 centimeters square. So for the upper bound, we will add 50 to 9400. 9450, that is your upper bound for the area. Then for the length, we divide the degree of accuracy by 2 again. So that's 5. So lower bound would be 80 minus 5, which is 75 centimeters. So now for the width, we do the upper bound of area, which is 9450, divided by the lower bound of the length, which is 75. So 9450 divided by 75, and that's 126 centimeter. That is your upper bound of the width of the rectangle. Remember, in division, if you're trying to find the upper bound, the numerator will be upper bound, but denominator will be lower bound. If you're trying to find the lower bound, denominator is upper and numerator is lower. In multiplication, both will be upper or both will be lower depending on upper bound or lower bound. In addition, both will be upper if you're finding the upper, and both will be lower if you're finding the lower bound. In subtraction, if you're trying to find the upper bound, you subtract the lower bound from the upper bound. And for the lower bound, we subtract the upper bound from the lower bound. Then in question 8, it says a bag contains 24 colored beads. Some are red, some are blue, and 10 are yellow. One bead is picked at random from the bag. Find the probability that the bead is yellow. So that's 10 over 24. And you can simplify that to 5 over 12. Bead is not yellow. You do 1 minus 10 over 24, or 1 minus 5 over 12. So that's going to be 14 over 24, which simplifies to 7 over 12. And it says another bag contains 5 green marbles, 6 white marbles, and 4 black marbles. Mira picks 2 marbles at random from the bag without replacement. Find the probability that the first marble is black and the second marble is white. So since it's without replacement, first marble is black, that's going to be 4 over 15 times 6 over 14. As you can see, there's one less marble in the total number of marbles because this is without replacement. So when you took the black marble, there's one less marble in the total marbles now. Hence 15 becomes 14. So that's 24 over. So we can simplify that to 7 to 5. So that's 4 over 35. That is your probability. Then both marbles have different colors. Now for both marbles to have different colors, we can say that we're doing green, white, or we're doing white, green, or we're doing black, green, or green, black, then black, white, or white, black. Yeah, these are all of the combinations. So if you pick green first, again, it's without replacement. 5 over 15 times 6 over 14, or 6 over 15 times 5 over 14, or 4 over 15 times 5 over 14, or 5 over 15 times 4 over 14, or 4 over 15 times 6 over 14, and lastly, 6 over 15 times 4 over 14. These are all the possibilities that we have. That's 30 over 15 times 14 is 210. So 30, 210, 20, 210, same again, and then 24 over 210. Combine these. So 30 plus 30 plus 20 plus 20 plus 24 plus 24. That's 148 over 210. So if you want to simplify it, that's going to be 74 over 105. That is the probability of both marbles having different colors. Remember that you don't do like if it's picking green first and then white, then we move on to like black first or green again. We don't know the order. He can pick green first or white first. So that's why I'm writing this twice, one with green first, then one with white first, and again same with the other 3 combinations. Question 9 says f of x equals to 2x minus 5, g of x equals to x squared minus 2x. Find f of 7. So we just substitute x equals to 7 in the function. And that gives us 9. Then g of f of 7. So this 9 becomes the domain of g of x now, because they've already replaced x with f of 7, so it's now g of 9. So that's going to be 9 squared minus 2 times 9, 81 minus 18, and that gives us 63. You can also do this, that you substitute f of x into g of x and then substitute 7 and then solve it, which is, in my opinion, like very lengthy. Like you don't need to go through that entire process when you already have the value of f of 7, which is 9. So this means 9 is your domain of g of x now, because it's a composite function. And then you just replace the x in g of x with 9, solve it, and you have your answer. For the inverse of f of x, we put the function equal to y first. Right now, y is the subject of the equation. We have to make x the subject. So we rearrange it, bring 5 to the other side, then divide both sides by 2. So we have y plus 5 over 2 equals to x. Now the last step is to replace x with f inverse x and y with x. So x plus 5 over 2 is your inverse. Always remember, in an inverse function, whatever function is being performed by the term in the original function, it does the opposite. If it's being added, it gets subtracted in the inverse. If it's being multiplied, it gets divided. So if we compare the original one with the inverse, 5 was being subtracted, now it's being added. 2 was being multiplied, now it's being divided. So opposites happening in the inverse and the original. Then it says find g of fx minus 3 times g of x. So g of fx, if we write those down, that's 2x minus 5 and x squared minus 2x. Fx is 2x minus 5 whole squared minus 2 times 2x minus 5. As you can see, f of x is replacing the domain of g of x. So instead of x, now I'm writing the entire function of f of x. So expand the bracket, 4x squared minus 20x plus 25 minus 4x plus 10. So that's 4x squared minus 24x plus 35. So now we subtract 3 times g of x from this. So 3 times g of x is basically 3 times x squared minus 2x, which is 3x squared minus 6x. So now if we subtract the two, what we get is 4x squared minus 24x plus 35 minus 3x squared negative 6x, 4x squared minus 3x squared minus 24x plus 6x because negative times negative is positive, and plus 35 as it is. That's x squared minus 18x plus 35. This is the quadratic equation we're getting after simplifying this expression. Question 10 says the curve has the equation y equals to x cubed minus 9x squared minus 48x. Differentiate this. So dy by dx is going to be, you bring the power down of the variable, then subtract 1 from the power. So 3 comes down and we do 3 minus 1. Again, 2 comes down, gets multiplied by 9 and we do 2 minus 1. And x has a power of 1, so it comes down as 1 and we subtract 1 from the power again. So that's 3x squared minus 18x minus 42. This x goes away because 1 minus 1 is 0 and anything to the power of 0 is 1. So 3x squared minus 18x minus 48 is our differentiation for this equation. And always remember that the derivative of a constant is 0. So when you differentiate a constant term, it goes away. Then it says find the coordinates of the turning points of the graph y equals to x cubed minus 9x squared minus 48x. You must show all your working. So when you're finding the turning points, we're basically putting the differentiation of the equation equal to 0, like the derivative is equal to 0. So 0 equals to 3x squared minus 18x minus 48. We factorize this quadratic equation. We can see that 3 is common among all of these terms. So now we have x squared minus 6x minus 16. Much easier to factorize using splitting the middle term method. We know 16 is 4 times 2. 8 times 2, 16, 4 times 4, sorry. 8 times 2 and 16 times 1. So we can use 8 times 2 because negative 8x plus 2x also equals to negative 6. Factor by grouping. Split the term into two groups. First two terms make one group, last two terms make another group. So between x squared and 8x, we have x common. Between 2x and 16, we have 2 common. So as you can see, inside the terms, we have the same terms with the same signs. So between x and 2, we have x minus 18, x minus 8 common. So now x equals to 8, x equals to negative 2. They want the coordinates, not just the x values. So that means we will put these in this equation to find the corresponding y values. So for 8, what we get is negative 4 for the 8, and for 2, what we get is 52. Remember, we're going to put the x values back into the original equation, not the derivative, because they want the coordinates of the turning point. Putting it back into the derivative will give us dy by dx, which is 0, because that's where dy by dx is 0. So our answer is 8, negative 448, and negative 2 and 52. Just highlight this. This is your coordinates. Determine whether each of the turning points is a maximum or a minimum, giving a reason for your answer. So for this, we differentiate the derivative again to find the double derivative. So our derivative was 3x squared minus 18x minus 48. So if we differentiate this again, 2 comes down, gets multiplied by 3. We subtract 1 from the power again. For x, 1 comes down, and we subtract 1 from the power again. And as we said, the derivative of a constant is 0, so negative 48 goes away. So that's 6x minus 18. So now to figure out whether the points were maximum or minimum, we substitute the x values in the second derivative and see whether it's greater than 0 or less than 0. So at x equals to negative 2, our second derivative is 6 times negative 2 minus 18. It's coming out as negative. That's less than 0. So I write it over here. That means it's maximum. This point is maximum. And at x equals to 8, we're getting greater than 0. That means it's minimum. So this point is minimum. This point is maximum. Why is it maximum? Why is it minimum? If the second derivative is greater than 0, it's a minimum point. If the second derivative is less than 0, it's a maximum point.